Hey, what's up, Spencer? My name is everybody, and welcome back to my channel. It has been a while, and I have missed you guys as much as I definitely know you have missed me. I'll be honest, things have been rough for a little while, but recently they have been getting a lot better. So, I am so happy and excited to try and get back into making vlogs and videos for my YouTube channel. So in order to work back into it, we are going to be starting off with something simple, just a regular old weekly reading vlog. There's a lot of books that I've been reading, a lot of things that I've been getting back into. I have been in a bit of a reading slump, but I am starting to get back out of it, and I'm really excited about that. So we're going to be starting off today by going and doing some chores while listening to the book Fish in a Tree. This is a middle school level read, and it is about a girl named Allie who has autism and dyslexia, although both are undiagnosed. So it follows her in her journey through 6th grade and really trying to work with reading and doing all of this stuff and figuring out how to work with her disability and learn that she's not stupid, even though she really feels that way. I am actually almost done with this book already. I'm about 80% of the way through with it, and it's really good. I've really enjoyed it. I really like the struggles that she's going through and the new teacher that she has and how he works with her and does all of these different strategies. And it's just really cute and wholesome, like, overall. So yeah, I guess with that, let's start our day, and I'll check in with you guys when I've finished Fish in a Tree. Alright, so I have now finished Fish in a Tree, and I am going to be giving this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. I thought it was a really cute and sweet story that really did a great job of exploring different relationships that Allie had in her life, and the struggle of making friends and trying to balance having a learning disability and not really wanting other people to know because she's scared that people are gonna think that she's dumb or that there's something wrong with her. The only thing that I didn't really like about this book was the character Albert, only because he is like the Sheldon Cooper stereotype, and I personally hate characters like that. I hate characters that are supposed to be read as autistic in the fact that they're talking in this extremely clinical manner, and they're always taking things so literally that it's absurd, some of the, like, things that they're saying and the conclusions that they're jumping to, in that there's, like, no room for them to, like, understand any sort of nuance and stuff, and I just personally hate it because I don't think that it's a good or true representation of autism. So that part I wasn't really jiving with, but he was, like, a really good friend for Allie, and I did think that he was, like, a really good addition overall. And I did also really like the part where Allie was trying to tell her friends, like, oh, you don't know what it means to be different, you don't know how it feels to be excluded, and her friend said, I am literally the only black person in our school, so do not try and tell me that I do not know what it feels like to be different, because I absolutely do. And I just think that it's a good conversation about how there are all sorts of different types of feeling othered, and that a lot of people do feel othered, and that a lot of people do feel like they don't fit in. And the reason that we act in all of these different ways and can't get along is because a lot of the times we are trying to do things to try and force ourselves into these spaces where we feel like we belong, instead of learning how to grow with who we are as a person. But so yeah, that just was a really great read, and I thought it was super cute, and I definitely suggest it. And I did also show you guys that I was working on You Weren't Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White. I actually just finished this book, and I'm going to be giving this 4 out of 5 stars. This is his newest book. Andrew Joseph White always does transmask body horror, and I absolutely love that for him. I do have to say, this isn't my favorite out of all of the things that he's written. This is his 4th book, and it was really good, but still not my most favorite thing that he's ever done. This follows our main character, Crane, who is an autistic trans man who has gotten sucked into a cult, and the cult ends up forcibly impregnating him and forcing him to carry the baby to term. And that's kind of what this entire book is about, is Crane dealing with being pregnant, and that's kind of a big reason why I only gave it 4 stars, is that's kind of the only thing that's going on in this book. It's very character heavy, and I'm somebody who really likes more plot-based stuff. And it's not that I can't do character-based books, it's just that if we are gonna do a character-based book, I want there to be more to it than what I was given here. There were like several characters that really felt underutilized, and several things that I felt like we could have really gone harder with it. Like, Stagger was such an interesting character, and at the same time I felt like he was so underutilized because who he was as a person was so intriguing, and yet for every scene he was kind of just there and not really like contributing much to character development or overall plot or anything like that. So I just wish that we had gone harder in a lot of like different themes and with our characters and who they were. That being said, this is still an incredible novel. Andrew Joseph White is still one of my #1 top favorite authors, to the point that I am actually getting a tattoo from this book. So I say that it's not my favorite, but I still clearly absolutely loved this. What am I going to be working on next? I honestly am not 100% sure. I have a whole bunch of chores that I want to be working on, and I'm going to start a new audiobook with it. I just haven't fully decided what audiobook yet, but it is October right now, so I do want to try and stick with like the spooky theme. You know, do more horror, mystery, something like that. I did pick up Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison from the library, so maybe if I find the audiobook for this, maybe I'll try reading or listening to the audiobook version of this. If not, I might do something else. I don't know. I'll have to go through my Libby and see what is available for me and pick based on that. Start reading The Immortal Dark by Tygus Gurma. And I listened to about the first 20% of it, and I really think that I'm gonna DNF this one. This was something that was suggested to me the last time I went to Barnes & Noble by the cashier there. She told me it was about Ethiopian vampires, which did seem like really interesting, but now that I've started this book, I've realized that it's very YA tropey, and I really don't like that. It's about our main character whose sister went missing a few years ago. She thinks that vampires kidnapped her, and now she has this like horrible hate for all vampires, but now she has to go to this school that is full of vampires and interact with these vampires, and oh my god, she met this really hot boy who initially she had a bad like meeting with him, and he's a part of the group that she hates, but I can already like predict the way that this entire story is going to go, because everything that is happening in it, like I said, YA tropey. So I think I'm just gonna put this one down and move on to the next one. What is the next one? I'm not 100% sure yet. But I do need to work on reading Boys Run the Riot. I have volumes 3 and 4, and I really want to get them done and out of the way, so I'm probably gonna sit down and bust through these. This is a really good series about a trans man in high school who starts a fashion brand with his best friend, and he's not out about being trans at all, so this is about his journey of becoming more comfortable with himself and finding a support group and just learning how to be more him. It's been really good so far. There's a lot of like really great conversations going on in this book, and I just absolutely love everything that's going on. So I'm gonna finish these and then figure out what else I'm gonna be reading next. So I did end up finishing the Boys Run the Riot series, and I absolutely loved it. 5 stars. I really liked the messaging throughout this, and just the entire story, and the support that the main character got. A lot of the times when I read stories with trans main characters, it seems like the character has kind of really already figured out who they are, and come out, and kind of gone through a lot of the transition process, so it was really nice to read a story where the main character was still figuring a lot of things out. I still have not figured out an audiobook to listen to yet, but that's okay. I have plenty of time to do that tomorrow. For the rest of the night, I think I'm going to be working on some of my own personal projects and probably drawing something. It is Inktober, and I've really fallen behind with Inktober, so maybe I'll work on a couple of prompts. But with that, I will see you guys tomorrow morning. Hello, good morning. I actually already tried to film this segment just to have my camera immediately die, so let's try this again. Last night was an iffy night. I did start drawing some OC art, but didn't really get like super far into it. I did also try to watch the 1992 version of Dracula, because I remembered in high school that I was really into this movie, and I really liked this movie, and I got up to the part where Jonathan is being ravaged by the vampire brides while they have their titties out. And I do remember that being my favorite scene. Wow, I wonder why a high school boy really liked that scene. Truly is a mystery. But honestly, like, once I got past that scene that was so like fundamental for me growing up, I realized that I actually super was not interested in watching the rest of this 2-hour plus movie. And so I tried to move on over to Donnie Darko, and I did get about 45 minutes into it before I just gave up with it. And it's not that Donnie Darko was bad. I do not think that this was a bad movie. It's just that I really wanted to have like a good Halloween movie, seeing as we are halfway through the month of Halloween. And I did not realize that this was a movie that is very slow-paced and character-driven. I probably will go back and try and rewatch it at some point in the future. It's just that what Donnie Darko was not what I was looking for, you know? Like last Halloween, I had such a great time exploring the Chucky films, and I would absolutely love to do something like that again. But so yeah, kind of striking out a little bit with the Halloween movies this year, but hopefully I can find something else good to watch soon. I was also able to, this morning, get through the first chapter, also the first 20 pages of A Black Sheep, and it's okay so far. It's, you know, it's just the first chapter. But this book is following our main character, Vesper, and apparently she has, like, stuff going on with her family, where her mom used to be, like, a big scream queen from, like, 80s horror movies. But apparently Vesper has, like, run away from her family, doesn't want anything to do with her mom. If people bring her up, she just completely pretends that she has, like, no idea who this woman is. And after getting fired from her job, where there's this, like, crazy scenario where these guys at her restaurant are, like, sexually harassing her, and so she does something to like make the nacho cheese on their table explode, and it gives this guy like third-degree burns on his face from boiling hot nacho cheese. She goes home and finds a wedding invitation from her cousin, who is apparently marrying her high school sweetheart. So I assume that the plot of this book is that she is going to be going back and like reconnecting with this family who she hasn't really talked to at all in years, and like digging up a lot of stuff from the past, and like who knows what else is going on with this. I know that it is a horror. We got a horror sticker on here, so who knows like what kind of powers. We saw a little bit of her powers, so how that could turn into and play into everything, I'm not sure. I'm curious to see where this goes. And I also have not yet officially picked something that I want to listen to as an audiobook. Like I said, I want to try and keep with the spoopy Halloween vibes right now, but everything that I have like listed, that I have tagged, that's on my TBR, is not really available right now. I could put a hold on it, but it would take several weeks for me to get it, and will probably come after the month of October. So I want to try and look and see what is available right now. So I'm just going to go on here and put in that I want a thriller or a horror book, and I'm going to ask for whatever's available now, and I'm gonna scroll through what we got. Alright, so there are some books on here that I have already read, such as The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, The Outsider, My Best Friend's Exorcism. Obviously, I'm not going to reread something that I've already read. So the things that I'm seeing on here that I am interested in is Something in the Walls by Daisy Pierce, A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. I've never read T. Kingfisher before, but I've been meaning to. I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. Ooh. I think that I'm just gonna make this easy on myself and pick the very first thing that is on here, which is Something in the Walls by Daisy Pierce. I have not heard of this book before. I've not heard of this author before, but that's kind of the fun of it. Let's borrow it and see how it goes. Alright, and then the really big thing that I need to work on is rearranging my bedroom so that I can get a bed in here. I have been living here in this house for about a solid year now, and I have not had a bed to sleep in that entire time. But we are going to change that, so I'm going to rearrange everything to make it so that a bed will fit in here much better, and then hopefully tonight we'll be able to move it in.
Soak into my skin.
So it is already morning again. I was able to completely rearrange my room yesterday. It is a little bit weird now because things are all kind of a bit cramped and all shoved on like one side of my room, but I actually kind of like it because having all of that stuff like really close together really gives it kind of a cozy vibe to me. And we haven't really been able to get the actual bed in here yet, but I'm really hoping that that's something that we're gonna be able to do today because wow, I would really like to sleep in a real bed for the first time in a year. I did used to have a bed, but then it got infested with bed bugs, and so I had to throw it away. And I've just kind of been dealing with that for the past year, I guess. So today is Tuesday, which means that it is the first day of my 4-day work week. And usually when I'm at work, I can get a pretty good amount of reading done. Not 100% sure what I'm gonna be doing before I end up going into work, but I'm gonna get some shit done. This is a brandy new job for me, so I'm still kind of trying to like figure out my whole routine and my schedule and stuff like that. So let's get out there and let's make it work. Wait, oh my god, I just realized that I didn't even talk about the book that I'm reading, and this is a reading vlog. So I did get about 20% of the way through There's Something in the Walls yesterday. And this is a book about a woman who is at the end of her psych degree. She like specializes in adolescents and children, and she is somebody who is suffering after the death of her brother. He died several years ago when he was only 14 years old, but you know, that still really weighs on you. So when she goes to a like grief support group, she runs into this man who works as a journalist, and they kind of start talking and start working on a project together. It turns out this man is investigating this teenage girl who is supposedly being haunted, but obviously, you know, this guy doesn't really think that he's being haunted, which is why he's teaming up with the main character. He wants to bring in a child psychologist to see if they can figure out like what's actually going on, because the girl has already gone through a lot of like the physical doctor aspects of it. You know, they gave her a brain scan, they gave her all sort of like blood tests, and everything came back completely normal. So they're trying to figure out what is going on with that. In many aspects, it reminds me of the show Evil, which was not my favorite show, but there's like a lot of aspects that they are sharing together, you know? Like I said, only 20% of the way through, so I'm still in the very beginning portions of it. It's pretty good. It's definitely not like the best book that I have ever read, but it's pretty interesting, pretty intriguing. I'm very interested to see where the mystery is gonna go. I can already predict the way that the relationship is gonna go, because we are very obviously setting up like that overused trope of the main character who's with her boyfriend, and there's technically nothing wrong with him, but she's still just like not really happy until she meets this other guy who like suddenly she's like, wow, I'm experiencing like all of these feelings that I never felt before. I feel like that's where the personal relationship aspect is gonna go, and I'm not interested in that at all. So boring, so overdone, but I am really intrigued to see like what is actually going on with this teen girl. Do I think that she's actually being haunted? No. It is called Something in the Walls, so I do think that maybe there's mold growing in the house, maybe by her bed that's infecting her, or maybe there's like a rat colony that lives there where they like poop somewhere where she's grossly like ingesting it or something, and like that is giving her like all of these crazy hallucinations. I don't know, that's just my theory, and obviously like a big portion of my rating for this book is going to hinge on like what the big reveal is. So I'm gonna continue listening to that and continue reading Black Sheep and let you guys know how it's going when I get further on. So I have an update for Black Sheep. I got 60 pages into this and I hit a plot point that I hated so much that I immediately DNF'd this book. I believe we already talked about how the setup for this book so far has been that Vesper has been estranged from her family for several years now, but then she gets a wedding invitation to her cousin's wedding, and she decides to go back to support her cousin. And throughout this book, she has been making references to the church, saying that she grew up in the church, and that is a big reason why she's estranged from her family now. She left the church, and obviously because her beliefs do not line up with everybody else's beliefs, you know, she's not really welcome, and so she doesn't really feel comfortable around them and doesn't really want to talk to them anymore. Pretty standard. You know, a lot of people have gone through that. Except 60 pages in, when she has returned home and is now interacting with her family, Vesper reveals to us that when she meant that she grew up in the church, she meant the Church of Satan.
Stop it. Get some help.
Now, the reason why this pissed me off so much that I DNF'd this book is because everything that the author is saying about Satanism is blatantly false. Most of the time in horror books and movies, I can overlook the fact that they're misrepresenting what Satanism is. However, if you are going to have a character who says that they grew up in the Church of Satan, I expect a level of realism to it. Or just a level of knowledge of what the Church of Satan, like, actually teaches and what it is like to actually grow up in this religion. While reading through this book, it is glaringly obvious that Rachel Harrison has not even done a cursory Google search as to what the Church of Satan teaches, what their practices and beliefs are. She talks about things like Vesper going to mass since she was like 3 years old. Satanists don't really do mass. That's not a thing. Once in a while they do, but it's such a rare thing that the first Satanist mass didn't even happen until 2006. Not only that, but that happened in California, and the New Jersey branch of the Church of Satan, or the Temple of Satan, which is where Vesper lives, wasn't established until like 2011. She also talks about how Satanists don't believe in evolution, which is wrong. That is absolutely not something that the church teaches. And she talks about being in like this whole entire community of Satanists where every family that she interacts with is also a part of the church, and like she is only allowed to like interact with other Satanists and stuff, and that's just genuinely just not how it works, okay? It's very clear that she thinks that Satanists are just Christians who worship the devil, and if this book is actually supposed to be like a commentary and criticism of Christianity, she should have just made them Christians. Because taking somebody else's, like, actual beliefs, like, I don't think that she realizes that this is, like, a real religion that people do grow up in and do, like, learn the teachings of. So, like, I understand that it's supposed to be, like, a culty book type thing, but I just can't do it. I absolutely can't. It makes me very mad that we are bastardizing another real religion in order to critique a separate religion. There's a lot of people out there that this would not bother them. They would not really care, but as somebody who, in many ways, like, I feel like my beliefs align with the Church of Satan, and if there was, like, a church in my area, I would seriously think about joining it. So, to just see this just makes me personally very upset, and I cannot continue to read a book that I know is going to be very purposefully and deliberately misrepresenting a real, actual belief system. So that one's going back to the library, and I have 3 new spoopy books that I'm going to choose from. I have Bury Your Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab, or Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. Sorry, wrong pronoun. I have The Specimen by Jama Fixon, and I have You Will Be Mine by Natasha Preston. Now, I know that a lot of people have different ways that they go about picking what book they want to read next, and I personally like using an extremely scientific method that I have discovered. Alright, so I have my 3 books, and also my dog's cookie toy, and here is the scientific way that we are going to figure out my next read. You guys ready? Alright, here we go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by the toe. If it hollers, let him go. My mother told me to pick the very best one, and you are it. Alright, I guess that means we're reading The Specimen. Oh my god, it is so incredibly windy out today. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but this is definitely the definition of blustery. So it has been over a week since I first started this vlog, so here is our last check-in. Let's wrap everything up. So I have been able to get through the first 100 pages of The Specimen, and I'm really liking this book so far. But something that I'm not liking is that the description in the back spoils so much of this story. And this is a really big reason why I usually don't read the back of books before going into books. I was about 50 pages into this, ended up glancing at the back, and it ended up spoiling the mystery that I was currently reading about in the first sentence. This story starts off with our main character and her 7-year-old son, and he unfortunately is very sick. He previously got scarlet fever, I believe, and even though he recovered from it, it did enough damage to his heart that he is predicted to die within the next few years. Our main character takes him to see a doctor. The doctor unfortunately can't really do anything about it, and then a few days later her son actually goes missing. And while it isn't very difficult to piece together who probably took him, the back completely spoils what happened to her son. I expected that she was going to be able to go and maybe discover where he is and maybe save him and also, like, discover a cure along the way, but no. No. Instead, the book, in the very first line, tells you that the son is and that the mom is going to and that she is now going to try and go after the man who took her son because he had a rare heart condition. This is one of my pet peeves with book descriptions. You should start your book description where your book starts. You shouldn't be starting your book description a full 80 pages into it, because then I'm gonna be mad because I already know what's going on. There would be no mystery, there would be no intrigue, there would be nothing to capture me and really want me to continue reading this book because I'd already know the answer. But besides all that, I am really interested to see how our main character is going to get her revenge. I am interested to see what type of little scheme she's gonna come up with to try and get back at this guy and see, like, where everything goes. I want to see what else she's uncovering and all that. I do not think that this is going to be a 5-star read at all. It is a very character-driven book, and I am not somebody who is super into character-driven books. I am more a plot-based person, but this is interesting enough that I am going to probably, I predict that I'm gonna finish this. Sorry that the angle suddenly changed a little bit. I had to free up some space on my memory card so that I could keep recording this beautiful video. The next book that I started was The Babysitter's Coven by Kate M. Williams, and this is the first book in a series. This follows our main character, who is part of a small babysitters club, yes, very much like the books, when a new girl joins and introduces introduces witchcraft to it. I'm only 20% of the way through the book so far, but it is really interesting, and I do like some of the conversations that are going on right now. A really big part of our main character's story is that her mother is very, very severely mentally ill, to the point that she is in the hospital. She has been living in the hospital since our main character was about 3 or 4 years old. And now her condition has progressed to the point that the doctors and her father feel that they need to put her mother in a fully locked ward. So obviously the main character has a lot of concerns. Let me look up the main character's name. Oh, Esme. So obviously our main character, Esme, is really struggling with the fear that she one day will also lose her mind the way that her mother did, and that she won't be able to interact with the world, she won't be able to recognize anything, she won't be able to know basic things like you're not supposed to try and cross a 6-lane highway. And I think that that's really good and really interesting, and I'm very interested to see where things are going to progress from where they currently are. Because she does very much have magic, but obviously she's concerned about these other things and the way that she might be perceived, and people maybe, even though she does really have magic, other people could potentially like say that she's just fully delusional and do the same thing to her mother, to her, that happened to her mother. So that one's going great so far. The last book that I want to talk about is Something in the Walls, because I did fully finish this book and I ended up only giving it 1.5 stars. So while I did really like it when I was first going into it, as the story progressed, and especially in the last third, I was liking it less and less. And by the time we got to the last third, everything that was happening made such little sense that I didn't like anything that was going on at all. None of the explanations for the situation that was going on made any sense whatsoever, and I didn't understand how certain pieces were supposed to relate to each other at all. Also, our main character, Mina, was supposed to have like this big, deep, dark secret that I also do not understand why that happened the way that it did. I'm so confused. And there were so many things that just weren't pulled through and just had no relevance to the plot at all, but were there anyway. Like all of her conflicts that she had with her fiancé, and it turning out that I guess her fiancé was cheating on her. She just assumed that her fiancé was cheating on her, and then we never actually saw any real evidence of it, but seeing as he, like, dumped her at the end for some reason, I guess that means that he was. And this is what I mean about nothing in this book making sense. I don't even know anything as basic as, was her fiancé really cheating on her? So yeah, unfortunately, this was just a bad book all around, and I don't really recommend it. So that was my reading vlog for this week. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you so much for getting to the end of this. I know this vlog was a little bit rough, but that's because I wasn't really expecting a lot from this video. My whole entire goal with it was just to make a video in order to get me out of that slump, and then I'm going to focus on making them a little bit better each time. So yeah, if you thought that this video wasn't really the best, don't worry, I didn't either. But besides that, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Make sure that you stay safe and have a fantastic day. Bye.